If you're in your mid-30s and you feel like your hormones are going haywire, they might be. As your doctor told you, no, there's no way you can be in perimenopause because you're still having normal periods. Okay, first, perimenopause. In my training as a gynecologist 25 years ago, I was taught that perimenopause was the years surrounding menopause. That's what peri means, around. In the traditional thinking, it's the 5 years before and the 5 years after menopause, your last period, because we're not ovulating anymore. And the perimenopausal period are the years surrounding that date where we stop having periods and we are no longer able to bear children. The difference is it lasts a lot longer nowadays. Number one, please know that there's no blood test to know if you're perimenopausal. It's a diagnosis of hindsight, which makes it tough because if you're in the middle of these hormone shifts and your moods are changing and sometimes you're having hot flushes and sometimes you're bloated and sometimes you're moody, you feel like you're going crazy. It could be your hormones and they shift in perimenopause. The hormone shifts of perimenopause, what are they? Well, your progesterone levels will alternate between normal and low. The reason is that if you have a month where you don't ovulate, you're not making progesterone. And if you're making estrogen, but you have low progesterone, then you have symptoms of estrogen dominance, which are mood swings and feeling bitchy and feeling emotional. And then not only that, but in perimenopause, you will have estrogen levels that fluctuate between low, normal, or high. They go up and down and all over the place. So it can feel like a roller coaster ride. Please know that there is no hormone called estrogen. I'm just using that to be easy. But estrogen levels fluctuate because they depend on how many follicles are developing. And then on months that you don't ovulate, you might have low estrogen. And then you're going to have hot flashes and difficulty sleeping. Back to the reason that it's so different now. It's no longer just the 5 years before or after menopause. It used to be 5 years before, 5 years after. The average age of menopause is 51, so that's 46 to 56 years old is perimenopause. Well, now women are starting in their mid-30s. And it is crazy because you go to your doctor and you don't feel well and you have all these symptoms and they say, well, are you still having periods? And yes, you might be. And of course, in your mid-30s, you should be. And they go, well, it can't be perimenopause then. The reasons why the hormone shifts are happening so much earlier and lasting so much longer are actually very important because therein lies the key in what we can do about it. A regular trained OBGYN, if you go in with perimenopausal fluctuating hormone symptoms, unfortunately, they have only a few things to offer you. One is birth control pills because they say, oh, if your periods are irregular and we don't know what's happening, let's just take the ovaries out of the picture, put you on a low-dose birth control pill, and that will fix your problems. But it doesn't. It puts a Band-Aid on things. And if you're having mood swings from massive hormone shifts, it might help with that, but it doesn't help with anything else. And plus, these are not natural hormones. They're estrogen-like hormones and they're progesterone-like hormones, but they're not estradiol and progesterone, and they have risks. Certainly, if you need birth control pills or you need contraception, that's a reason to consider. But if you're using it to regulate your cycles, I say don't. Use things that are more natural and that actually regulate your hormones, not just take your periods out of control of your hormone cycles. Back to the why. One big reason is gut health. Our gut health has been macerated in the last 50 years. Here's the thing. Estrogen is metabolized and it's excreted from your gut. After it's used up, your body needs to get rid of it. Well, if you don't have healthy gut bacteria, then the estrogen gets reabsorbed and it creates a revolving door. So you see, you might be making the appropriate amount of estrogen with your cycle every month, but if you can't get rid of it, then you have symptoms of estrogen dominance. You're making the amount that's right, but you can't get rid of it, so it just keeps rising. There is an enzyme called beta-glucuronidase, which is secreted by abnormal gut bacteria, not the healthy ones, not the happy ones. These are what I call the rowdy crowd. Bacteria that are not doing you any favors in your gut, and they secrete this enzyme called beta-glucuronidase, and what that does is it allows estrogen to recirculate. And if your estrogen is recirculating, you're going to have too much in relationship to the amount of progesterone that you're making. You're going to have estrogen dominance. And if you're making more estrogen than progesterone, you're going to have the symptoms of estrogen dominance, which are the mood swings and the emotionalness, the breast tenderness. The second reason is because of toxins. Listen, a lot of the toxins that we're exposed to in our modern world have a component of them that are very similar to estrogen. It has to do with the ring shape and the chemical structure. And if it has that estrogen like ring shape, then it's going to act like an estrogen in your body. These are called xenoestrogens, and they're not natural, but they're hormone disruptors. You may have heard that term. It mimics estrogen because it has a structure that is slightly similar to estrogen. And because hormones work like a key and a lock, if you have a key that is just enough like estrogen, then it's going to unlock a lot of estrogen doors. And we're exposed to so many of these in our daily lives, from plastics, from any petroleum-based products, from some of our pesticides and our herbicides, and also from a mycotoxin called zearalenone, which is secreted by mold. This particular mycotoxin is 10,000 times stronger than estradiol. So if you have mold exposure and one of the mycotoxins secreted from that particular mold is zearalenone, then you will have estrogen dominance and way too high of estrogen. And these estrogens are not metabolized by the body in the same way. They just hang around and they cause estrogen-like symptoms. Maybe that's the reason why endometriosis is on the rise. Maybe that's the reason why uterine cancers are on the rise. So what do we do about it? Well, let's talk first about improving gut health. So first thing we can do to improve our gut health is to eat fiber in our diet, which should really come from fruits and vegetables, mainly vegetables because they have less sugar. But these fibers in your diet feed the healthy gut bacteria. And if you have a lot of healthy gut bacteria, then you don't have as much room for the unhealthy bacteria that secrete the beta-glucuronidase and mess up your estrogen levels. Next, for improving gut health, please avoid glyphosate. And this is a chemical that is sprayed on crops that are genetically modified, and it's on a lot of our grains. So Cheerios, bread, some of our wine, very ubiquitous in our food supply that's not organic. Glyphosate torches your microbiome. It's one of the most powerful killers of healthy gut bacteria. Getting rid of glyphosate in your diet will, over time, decrease the glyphosate levels in your body, and then that will allow your gut microbiome, those healthy, helpful bacteria, to replenish. And if you have a healthy gut, then you're going to metabolize your estrogen better. So the other thing about gut health is to make sure you're not constipated. If you're not having a bowel movement at least once a day, I got to tell you, you're constipated. I've heard women tell me, well, that's normal for me. I've always gone every third day. I'm like, excuse me, that's not normal. It may be what you do, but it's not healthy. Drink enough water. Most people don't drink enough water. Take your weight, whatever you weigh in pounds, divide by 2, and that's approximately how many ounces of water you should drink a day. Most people don't get enough. So with a combination of enough water and enough fiber, then that may fix your constipation issues. Otherwise, there's some supplements that can be very beneficial, but that's beyond the scope of this video. Okay, now let's talk about the toxins in estrogen. We do not want to be exposed to these xenoestrogens that are everywhere. So where do we get these non-human estrogens? I already mentioned plastics, pesticides, herbicides, and mold. Did you know that your water can also have it? That's because the water purification sites will get rid of a lot of the chemicals or the impurities when they process the water to go back into our water supply, but they do not get rid of a lot of the medications. So there are estrogen levels in a lot of the water supply. So we could just be drinking our regular water and be taking in estrogen from someone's birth control pills because that's not filtered out. So drinking pure, clean water will help. In order to decrease the plastics, please, there's 2 things that you can do for sure. Number 1, do not microwave your food in plastic. If you microwave your food in plastic, the plastic leaches into the food as it heats up and you're getting an exposure to plastic. Number 2, you know that Starbucks coffee that you love so much? Take the lid off of it when you drink it because that lid is made out of plastic, and the heat of sipping the hot beverage through that little plastic cup will give you extra plastic exposure. Number 3 would be to just avoid storing your food in plastic altogether. At least don't microwave with it. But even better would be to get glass containers. Plastic lids are okay to fit over it. And then, there's the issue of detox. These xenoestrogens are stored in our body in our fat, and they're not easy to get rid of. But this is where I caution you on making sure that you work with a knowledgeable provider if you're going to detox. In order to get rid of them, you have to mobilize them. And if you mobilize them rapidly and you're not excreting them, then they just circulate through your body like thing 1 and thing 2 from the Cat in the Hat and cause all sorts of problems. And you can get very sick if you try to detox on your own if you have a high toxic load and your body's not ready. In our practice, we do not start detoxing right away. We wait until we know that someone's healthy enough to handle the mobilization of the toxins before we start to get rid of them. But it does not harm at all to reduce your toxic exposures. So start with that. And then once you're pooping every day, we're working on getting your gut healthy and you've limited your toxic exposures. That is enough a lot of times to just get that resiliency back and get your hormones start to balance. And if you're still struggling, then work with a knowledgeable provider that can do the testing that you need and help you get the toxins out that have stored up. And if you do those things, you're much more likely to have a smooth transition from your fertility years to menopause. We don't have to have a roller coaster ride that feels like up and down and back and forth and moody and night sweaty and not sleeping. That is miserable. And if you're starting in your mid-30s, that's 15 to 20 years. We don't have time for that. No longer is it just 5 years. It's a much longer period because of all the issues that we have in our world, and we need to learn how to navigate it and keep our hormones balanced.